The Earl of Dartmouth.
I'm going to focus on paragraph 46 of the report. This says, and I quote, an EU seat on an enlarged UN Security Council remains a central long-term goal of the European Union. Later, it calls for, and I quote again, the introduction of new members of the UN Security Council and reform of the UN Security Council's decision-making towards the possible use of a super-qualified majority. In the European Union, the United Kingdom has very little influence. We have just 8.24% of the weighted votes in the Council of Ministers, less than 10% of MEPs, and the ability to appoint just one of 28 commissioners. However, the UK is represented in its own right in international organisations, and perhaps the most significant is the UK's permanent seat on the UN Security Council and the veto that goes with it. This report and the thinking behind it puts at risk the UK's seat on the UN Security Council and also the UK's veto. So let us be crystal clear. The UK's continuing membership of the European Union does not enhance our influence in the world. It is in fact exactly the other way round. Our membership of the European Union, our influence is thereby and inevitably diminished.
I have a blue card, Mr. Dartmouth. Do you accept, Herr Bütikofer?
Dear colleague, did I get you right that the British veto is even more important than the British seat on the Security Council?
Mr. Dartmouth?
With the greatest possible respect, you actually got it wrong. There is a seat on the UN Security Council. That seat has a veto. What the report proposes is that the EU should have a seat. It also proposes that the method of voting, and I quote, should make use of a super qualified majority, which would have the effect of losing the veto. So therefore, it diminishes the position of the UK and incidentally of France on two counts, not just one.
Thank you. Do you accept the second blue card? Mr. Goerens.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask the honourable member if he's aware that it is a British citizen who has been running the External Action Service for the past 5 years, and that that's something that can't be ignored.
I don't want to spoil the happy atmosphere, but it is true that the UK, moreover, appointed the current holder of the post of High Representative. And as we've heard, in the opening 20 minutes of self-indulgence with which this debate was opened, that was a complete waste. What a waste of an appointment, and what a waste of 5 years.
I would say that this contribution to the debate. Let me just remind you that we need to show respect, and it wasn't in keeping with that.
Excuse me, Mr. Van Orden, do you accept the blue card? Please, Mr. Dartmouth.
Thank you very much for taking the intervention. Brigadier Van Orden, in Turkey. Sorry,
okay.
Thank you for taking the intervention. Brigadier Van Orden, in Turkey, the AKP government puts journalists in prison, blocks the internet and interferes with the judiciary. Yet, the AKP party has recently joined your pan-European party, the AECR. As a prominent member of the AECR, I have to ask you, do you support the values of the AKP party in Turkey?
Mr. Van Orden.
Mr. President, that has absolutely nothing to do with the debate in hand. If he's asking me whether I think it's important that Turkey, as a strong NATO ally, should play a full part in the NATO alliance, then that is exactly what I would agree. The other business is not for this discussion, it's for discussion elsewhere.